Okay, we're going to start a unit on value. And before we begin, I want to go over what you received in your little art kit. Okay. Um, First of all, if you are missing any of these items, it's very likely that you might be. You're just going to have to do the best you can to get by with what you have. But these are some options of things you might have. You might have a tiny little square of cardboard, okay? A piece of sandpaper. If you do not have a piece of sandpaper, another option is to go to your dad's shop and see if they've got sandpaper, or grandpa or somebody like that, maybe in your garage. Or, those fingernail files that women use to file their fingers, okay? That would work. Some people call them emery boards. So if you want to ask mom or grandma or aunt or sister or something like that, that's an option. You have a plethora of drawing pencils that I'm going to go over. You might have a blending stump. You might not. This is not a necessity, okay? There are other things that you can use to get by. That you have maybe a kneaded eraser or a regular eraser, and then a piece of cardboard that you might use as a straight edge. If you do not have any of these, or the straight edge, you could use a ruler, okay? Doesn't matter, that's all that's for. So I'm going to push this aside, okay, and explain to you some things about pencils. Before we begin, I want to go over what's called pencil grades, or these pencils in particular. I want to explain what you have. They're drawing pencils, okay? This is a number 2 pencil, an old one at that many people use every day to do like Scantron testing, drawing with, that kind of thing, okay? And it falls in the range of these pencils as well. This is all things that I have learned over the years and little tricks. These pencils have little numbers and letters on them. Like this one says graphite drawing since 1889. What brand this is, I don't know. There it is, Kimberly brand. And it is a 2B pencil. This one happens to say it on both sides. There, I also have a 2H in my possession. I have a 6B, okay? And then I have another one here that says design or ebony. Maybe yours says layout. Maybe you didn't even receive one of these. You might have pencils that are different numbers, and that's okay. But I want to explain to you what you do have. First of all, before we begin, I'm going to write out a little chart, okay? So bear with me a minute. You have what's called a 9H, okay? That's a pencil that exists. And then if I continue this range, 8H, 7H, 6H, 5H, 4H, 3H, 2H, and then of course there's H, okay? This is a range of pencils that exist, H meaning a harder lead. Then this thing continues on. There's a pencil that may have an F on it for a finer lead. There's a pencil that has an HB on it. And then it continues to go the other direction. You've got 2B, 3B, 4B, 5B, 6B. Am I going to make it? Nope. 8B. I ran off the page. 8B. Okay. 9B. And then your ebony pencil falls there, or that layout dark pencil that you have. Okay. Those are the ranges of pencils. You do not have to write this down. I just wanted to explain it to you. The H's tend to be a hard lead, very much like mechanical pencils. They're a very fine lead. They are lighter in value, okay? They're more for technical drawing, like architecture, doing math problems, stuff like that. Your B pencils, okay, to remember these are more for shading, and they're a soft lead. Okay, so what did I say I had? I happen to have the 2B, which I think is very equivalent to a number 2 pencil. A 2H, okay, I have that one in my bag, and I have a 6B, so I have a pretty dark one. And I have the ebony, okay, or layout pencil. So that is explaining your range in particular. When you use these pencils, the H's tend to be more scratchy and light, where the B's tend to be softer. I am pressing hard so you can see it under the camera, but they do tend to be softer and used for shading. Okay, so I wanted to explain what all that meant. Let's talk about these other tools. This is a blending stump. This blending stump is used for shading. Some people, some students in particular, when they shade and they blend, they rub it with their finger. Bad, bad, bad thing to do. First of all, it's hard to control that your fat little finger fitting into tiny areas. And you're using the oils from your skin mixed in with that graphite, and it gets into your paper and it tends to age your paper. So artists tend to use these things called blending stumps, blending tortillons, I've also heard them called. When they get all dirty and grungy, I think they work better. So what you do is you use the pencil and you get it all dirty and grungy, okay? And then this is used to help you blend and shade. It is not a necessity. You can get by without it. Just don't use your fingers. If you don't want to blend and smear it, don't. It just gives it a different look, and I'll show you some examples. When this gets worn down and nasty and grungy, you go to your sandpaper, okay? And then you take your sandpaper and you rub the pencil or the blending stump on it, and it makes these little shavings, and it tends to resharpen this and clean it off a little bit. Okay, that's what the sandpaper is for. So again, are these two things necessary to draw? No, they're just like a luxury item. Let's talk about more luxury items. You know that's an eraser, and an eraser erases, right? Eraser removes mistakes. They get rid of things. They cause little shavings on your paper that you can flick off. I tend to take my paper and shake it rather than swish it off, because otherwise you leave little marks, okay? Other little tricks when you're blending and shading. If you tend to hold your pencil and then you're shading and rubbing and then you work somewhere else, you tend to get the graphite on the back of your hand, right? So the best thing to do in that instance when you're working and shading is to take a piece of clean paper for under your hand. And then when you're working in an area, you can kind of move it around and leave your hand on the area. Okay, so whether you're left-handed or right-handed really makes no difference at all. That just kind of keeps your paper cleaner, and your hand, okay? Keeps it from transferring around. So you move the paper around to where you're working and keep it underneath, okay? Little tricks. The last thing that you have as a luxury item is this kneaded eraser. This one happens to be a Prismacolor brand kneaded eraser. Maybe you don't have one in your bag. It doesn't have to be this brand. It could just say kneaded eraser. It could be gray or pink. I've seen them in different colors as well. When you unwrap this eraser, you end up with something like this, and you stretch it and you soften it to clean it, okay? That keeps, what it does is the graphite kind of goes inside the eraser. It doesn't disappear. Eventually they go bad. It does look like gum. Okay, especially if you get it stuck on the bottom of your shoe. I've had that happen. It will stick. This is not necessarily for erasing. Remember I talked about how if you smear your hand on stuff, okay, and then let's say you have smudges all around your drawings. It is really good for taking that off, for cleaning your paper, okay? You could use the pink one too. It does the exact same thing. So you could use a pink eraser to clean your paper around your drawing. The only difference is that leaves shavings and this one does not. But what this one generally is for is lightening pencil. So if you have an area that is too dark, you don't rub it. You set this on top and you kind of lift off with it. And then that graphite sticks to your eraser, and if you notice, it lightens the area. Then you still kind of got to go back and clean it up, okay? It's just a luxury tool to lighten things. And they're kind of fun to play with. If you're a fiddler and you like doing something with your hands all the time, that's a really cool thing to use, okay? All right, so I went over the tools that you have in your bag and what they're used for. I think I covered all that. Like I said, this is for a straight edge, and this little piece of cardboard is something you're going to need for this unit, for this next exercise. So you're going to have to play the next video to watch what's next.